Welcome to the latest video in the Microsoft Sentinel Data Lake video series. In this video, we'll go over the Microsoft Sentinel Model Context Protocol Server, or MCP server. An MCP server is a tool that allows users to issue prompts against an underlying data store, such as Sentinel Data Lake. The Microsoft Sentinel Data Lake is the foundation behind the Sentinel MCP server, providing a unified, security-aware set of tools that AI agents can use in real time. The MCP server acts as a managed interface that provides a unified set of security tools that help security teams bring AI into their daily security operations to assist with tasks such as data exploration, threat hunting, and building agentic automation. That MCP server can use these tools to be able to take those prompts and perform specific actions. So, in the case of our interaction with the MCP server, in order to access information from the data lake, we're going to issue prompts that ask the MCP server to do actions like show me the last 5 sign-ins today, or similar simple requests. We can even make the prompts much more complex. The MCP server takes that prompt, parses through it, determines what the user's trying to do, and then crafts KQL queries to query the underlying Sentinel data lake. It then retrieves those results and presents them back to the user in the format that the user asks for. Users may not have super in-depth knowledge of the underlying schemas for their tables, or know what tables might even be available in their data lake. They just want to ask the MCP server questions like, do I have any attacks going on right now? Do I have any devices that might be compromised? Or basic asks like, show me a list of all groups that have roles assigned to them. Something along those lines. The MCP server can take those requests and parse them out and return results back to the user. The user can then take those results and ask the MCP server things like, can you make this a prettier table? Or only show certain columns, etc. This is the type of example I'll demonstrate in this video. We're going to use Visual Studio Code for this demo, and the first thing we need to do is to create a connection to our MCP server. We start off with a relatively empty project to begin with. I have a context.md file that has some basic information about workspaces that I want the MCP server to use, as well as the tenant IDs it should incorporate. Essentially, just giving it instructions so that it knows what backend systems I want to access. We're not going to dig into that, but what we will do is create a connection to our MCP server. Bring up the Commands menu here in VS Code by selecting Ctrl-Shift-P, and from the menu, we'll select MCP Add Server. It's going to ask what type of server to add, and we want to add an HTTP server. Then it's going to ask what URL of the MCP server are you connecting to. We're going to use the Data Exploration Toolset endpoint that Microsoft Sentinel provides. It then asks for a friendly name, so I'm just going to call this my MCP demo server. Then we have to specify the configuration target. This can either be global, meaning it's going to be available across all my instances of VS Code, or this configuration can be available only within this workspace. Choosing Workspace here creates a local mcp.json file. The mcp.json file has been created, and the MCP tooling in VS Code has successfully established a connection to that MCP server, indicated by the Running Status display. There's a More menu right above the MCP server entry, which provides a few additional tools or actions that can be taken against the server, such as stopping it, restarting it, disconnecting it, and more. The other status indicator displayed shows that there are 6 tools available for this MCP demo server. Tools are the different actions that the MCP server can take. For example, if you ask it to query a table or show a listing of all the workspaces you have access to. There's a handful of different actions we have access to, so let's dig into what's available. In the chat window on the right, in VS Code, it's running in agent mode, which is important. That's what we want to use. Claude is the LLM being used, and to take a look at the tools available in this session, select Configure Tools. There's a handful of built-in tools that are available, as shown from the drop-down menu that appears. I have some other tooling that's in my environment as well, and then here's our demo server that we've connected to. If we select the down caret next to it, it lists 6 tools underneath it, such as Query Lake, Search Tables, List Sentinel Workspaces, and more. These are the different actions that this MCP server can take. Now let's create a prompt. I've already prepared one, which I'll enter into the chat box. This will issue a prompt to our MCP server asking it to look back through 7 days of logs and determine if there's any evidence of password spray attacks. And if there are, then for it to produce a table. This prompt includes a handful of columns I want it to display, including a range of date-time. So there's some aggregation that's going to happen. I've also asked for some other relevant data that it might come across. I've specifically asked it not to include the UPN or the email address of the accounts found in the result tables. Lastly, I've asked it to sort the results by the number of failed attempts and show the top 10. We'll select Send to issue this prompt to the MCP server and let it run. It's going to go through several different steps, and as it performs certain actions, it will prompt you to answer whether you want to allow the MCP server to perform certain actions. I'm going to select Allow in response to those prompts. I paused while it ran through a few different actions, and now we have the results that came back. After each step, it provides a status update on what's happening. For example, it found some significant results. It's going to look into other tables to be able to pull back other information it was asked for, such as given name and surname, and it's going to join that. It did find some potential password spray attacks, as shown. It lists the information as it was asked, by top 10 in descending order. It also provided key observations and additional recommendations. You can also go through these results and review the KQL that was used by selecting each RAN statement under the status updates. This allows you to understand what's happening within your environment, and it's pretty cool to have not only the results, but also the KQL that's being issued by the MCP server. Having this information within a chat is one thing, but maybe we want to send this as a report to other people. To do this, we'll issue another prompt asking the MCP server, using that data you just found on password spray attacks, create a nicely formatted markdown file, and save it in this project's current directory. The prompt also states what to include in terms of different sections of the report, such as an executive summary, the results table to provide a narrative and other information, as well as a name for the file. Select Send to run the prompt for it to generate that markdown file. After a minute or so, the MCP server created a markdown file from the results. It provided a high-level overview of the actions it took, such as creating an executive summary, detailed the results table, some analysis and insights, and provided some additional information. A neat thing too is that it responds, "I created this file. Do you want to keep it or not?" So you have the option to keep or undo the action that it took. Within File Explorer, in VS Code, there is a passwordsprayresults.md file, which was created by the MCP server. Select Open Preview to render the markdown and inspect the file. So, we have our analysis report, some general information, the executive summary, the detailed results that came back showing the time range and even specific applications that might have been targeted, some attack pattern analysis, and then conclusions and recommendations. Overall, interesting information that might help kickstart some efforts that you have going on in terms of building out reports or doing analysis on your environment. This can get you started and help you focus on areas that need to be addressed in your environment. So, after reviewing the output, we'll select to keep the file. To review, we established a connection to the MCP server in Microsoft Sentinel platform. We issued a prompt to do password spray analysis, and then we took those results and formatted them into a nicely formatted markdown file. This was just a quick start overview, but hopefully this gives you a lot of ideas of what you can do with the MCP server and the Microsoft Sentinel platform. Get started with Sentinel, aka.ms/get_started/sentinel_data lake.